A skid plate has to be considered an essential part of your bike's protection package. Without one, your motorcycle's belly is just too exposed. One rock hitting the engine in the wrong place can end your day, and it might end at miles from help. A high-quality skid plate will give you peace of mind on the trail, and it's not difficult to install if you follow some simple rules. The first rule is to buy a good skid plate. Flimsy plastic skid plates may be light, but won't provide the protection found in something like this SW-Motech part. You want thick material where it counts, solid welds, and a design that wraps around the engine and chassis to cover critical parts like the oil pan, oil filter, and lower exhaust header. Also look for a skid plate that allows access to drain plugs. You'll be a lot happier if oil changes don't require removing the skid plate. Installation starts with reading the instructions. Take a moment to lay out all the parts and be sure you have everything. Get your tools ready as well. If your bike has a skid plate from the factory, remove it now and set aside the hardware. This is a great time to clean and thoroughly inspect the exposed area of the engine and frame. Follow the directions to see if you need to mount brackets or foam isolators inside the skid plate. Thoroughly clean the plate to ensure that the adhesive back pads will stick. By also following the directions, mount any spacers or threaded brackets to the bike as required. Right about now, you'll be glad you cleaned the motorcycle first. Here's a pro tip: if you need to keep the spacers in place while you're installing the plate, just use a dab of grease. It'll hold the spacers right where you need them. Next, dry fit the new skid plate by holding it in place. Look carefully for areas of interference. Don't rush this step. It's common to want to start bolting it down, but take your time getting the plate in exactly the right place and determining fit. If you're happy with the fit, begin bolting the skid plate to the bike. Unless otherwise directed in the instructions, start at the back and work your way forward. If the instructions call for you to use medium strength thread locker, commonly known as blue Loctite, absolutely do so. A skid plate that falls off on the trail is more than just a distraction, it's dangerous. With all the hardware loosely fitted, once again check the fit against the frame. If all looks good, start at the rear and tighten all the hardware to spec. It may be difficult to use a torque wrench on all these fasteners, but it's worth the effort. Take a few moments to double check the final fit, using a flashlight and mirror if necessary to see where the skid plate contacts the chassis. Make sure none of the bolts or clamps have changed position. If they're making contact with the frame or engine where they shouldn't, you'll have trouble. Finally, periodically check your skid plate's mounts to be sure nothing has loosened up. These things take a beating on the trail, and it's much better to catch a loose skid plate in the shop instead of it leaving the bike in the middle of a rock garden or trail full of baby heads. To see our extensive collection of skid plates and see what we have for your bike, visit TwistedThrottle.com.